I think the NFL's hardest decision has only gotten harder. Now, I love what we've done this season. We've broke down game tape. We've done analysis of games pre and post game. But I think as we head into the offseason, as we prepare for the offseason, there's a lot of things that we can talk about from a strategical standpoint that comes a close second to actually talking about what happens during the season. I love all season talking off-season content. So today I want to talk about what Justin Fields has done. What have the Chicago Bears done, especially in these past few games, to make this decision a little harder on Ryan Poles as he decides Caleb Williams or Justin Fields. Now, I think when we have this conversation, it starts with the quarterback that's currently rostered. That's Justin Fields. I like, especially in these last two games, of what I've seen. I went to rewatch the Atlanta Falcons game this morning, and just to see how Luke Getsy, now I do think they want to bring in a new offensive mind, bring in a fresh face, a fresh voice to really bring the best out of whatever quarterback is on the roster next year. But I like how Luke Getsy has now implemented DJ Moore firmly, consistently into the offense, because I think he's had a great season all year, but we saw games where they went to DJ Moore early. He made big time plays, then they got away from it. I think in that last game, particularly against AJ Terrell, some of those guys in the back end for Atlanta, you consistently got DJ Moore the football, and it didn't matter if he was in the slot or he was on the perimeter. And then in the running game, Roshan Johnson, Khalil Herbert, but also in the passing game, now you get Justin Fields on the move. You give him more options to throw the football. Now you have better pass protection schemes. I like what they've been able to do, and they're showing that this roster may not actually be as bad as we thought, and I think that's going to play a big-time part as I talk about some of these things for the decision with Ryan Poles. Now, you look at Justin Fields, and I think he still has some of those flaws, which we talk about holding on to the football a little too long, understanding where to go with the football, but not actually throwing it when he makes the right read in his progression. If we bring in a new offensive coordinator, if we hypothetically get a Malik Neighbors, a Keon Coleman, a Marvin Harrison Jr., one of those receivers coming out of college football, will that be enough to now exemplify and bring the best out of Justin Fields? And we can also add in the offensive lineman, even though I like how they've been playing, Tevin Jenkins, Braxton Jones, Darnell Wright. But I think you're looking at this and you're a lot closer than you are if you look at the team building aspect of this thing. Now, when you look at Caleb Williams, and this is the biggest part in this conversation I like to have, I'm stepping back from the generational bust-proof thing. I think he is one of the very best prospects that I've ever seen at the quarterback position. He's up there with the Trevor Lawrences. He's up there with the Joe Burrow. But to say he's a can't-miss prospect, and does that change your evaluation of this situation? Do you get Caleb Williams if you believe he's the next big thing? But if you have any concerns or any slight doubt in your mind, do you not make that decision? Do you continue to build around Justin Fields? And just to talk about Caleb Williams a little bit, I think he has some of the talents that we see out of Justin Fields. And when you also look at this, you got to talk about from a team building aspect, the strategy of it. Justin Fields, if you keep him, he's going to command a lot of money and command a lot of money soon. If you draft Caleb Williams, you now reset the clock a little bit. But I think as far as this year, you look at a situation where maybe you can't get two blue chip guys. But if you get Marvin Harrison Jr., if you get Latu, if you get Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors or Jared Verse or one of those offensive tackles in Olu Fashanu or Joe, those are two bookend blue chip prospects who can really speed up the team building aspect of this thing. Even Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Alabama. And I think if you don't do that, if you get Caleb Williams at number 1, you're not getting Malik Neighbors at 10. You're not getting Marvin Harrison Jr. at 10. Now, you probably could get Keon Coleman, probably Rome Odunze, but those are the types of things when we talk about it. And that's no knock to Keon or Rome. I think those are two very good receivers in their own right. But Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., when we talk about off-season football, get into college football a little bit, those guys would probably be the top 2 prospects in any of the last 5 to 10 drafts. That's how good of football players and prospects they are when we talk about this. And I think you have a solidified number 1 in DJ Moore. Pair another DJ Moore beside that, and then look at what you have when you talk about the Chicago Bears offense. Like I said, I'm looking at some of the names on the defense. I like with Tyreek Stevenson, Eddie Jackson, Jaquan Brisker, the defensive front. Ryan Poles being gutsy enough to make that midseason trade deadline acquisition for Montez Sweat, pay him. Now you have a bookend pass rusher. All you have to do is go get one opposite him. So we're looking at the situation of this team right now, and I think it really would hurt if you pass up on Caleb Williams and he does become that next big Patrick Mahomes, if he does become that next big Josh Allen, Joe Burrow-like aura of a quarterback, because he has that talent. And I think when you're looking at all of the money, then you look at, okay, we can get a guy who's giving us top 5 to 10 quarterback play, but he's on a rookie contract. It's something that we truly have to win. I want to know, as I talk about this situation, what do you guys down below in the comments think? Because I've heard so many things. And I think, like I said, the decision has gotten harder. I'm seeing how Justin Fields, the city of Chicago, that does weigh a lot into this when I look at it. Now, you don't want to make an emotionally driven decision when you talk about the future of your job if you're Ryan Poles. You talk about the future of Chicago if you're Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus. I'm feeling very confident in Matt Eberflus coming back, but with the offensive mind. What do they do in that aspect? If I do go and pair those two blue chip bookend prospects at the top of the draft, I got to feel really good about what I have. If you trade that number 1 overall pick, we've seen what the packages are for those picks hypothetically, and I think that's also what some people have missed in the conversation. You trade that number 1 pick because I just said this is a guy who could potentially be the next Josh Allen, who could potentially be the next Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. He has that type of talent, and if he clicks on that, a team is willing to bite. Now, we're looking at Washington. We're looking at some of these other teams in the top 10. The Chicago Bears currently have the number 10 overall pick, but they can now move up and make that a little better. I think if you trade that first-round pick, the first overall pick, you got to get at least 3 first-rounders, probably some mid-round pick swaps. You don't have actually, I want to check this. You don't have a second in this year's draft, so that's something you can actually add in there. You got to get a proven player. A proven player, 2 top blue chip prospects, and you still got Justin Fields, who's a very good starter, could still have more in the tank, more in his ceiling, as we just talked about. And then I look at Caleb Williams, though. A rookie quarterback, rookie contract. You probably could still bring in some draft capital. Even if you don't want to get a guy at 10, you feel like you want to get more instead of one of those players at the number 10 overall position. This is a deep draft as far as talent. You would feel like you finally got your guy for the next 10 to 15 years. Because I think even with Justin Fields, even with all of the talent, I don't know if they feel right now that he is the guy for the next 10 to 15 years. When you make that decision to keep him, that's banking on what he can become. Right now, we do not know that about Justin Fields, but if we get Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, one of those tackles, defensive ends, we feel he could become. That's a part of the conversation as well. A couple of other things I'm looking at is, if I bring in that proven player, now I still got a couple more first, maybe in next year's draft. I could pair my first next year, and whoever I trade with, I could pair their first and our first, go get a future quarterback. Because like I said, if we're looking at Caleb Williams, he's not bust-proof. Nobody's ever bust-proof. But when we talk about Marvin Harrison Jr., that's a guy who you feel is a can't-miss prospect. Now, we looked at Caleb Williams like that coming into the season, but I think as we watch more film, as we look a little bit at him, he's still an elite prospect. Don't get me wrong there. But it's not as 100% certain as we thought it was before. That's all I want to say there. So you feel that you could probably even go get a quarterback if you keep Fields and it doesn't work, but your roster is a little more advanced at that point. Now you got Caleb Williams. Do you feel that the roster, with some additions you can make in free agency, with the assets and picks that you have right now, would be good enough to go compete? And not even if you compete, but just have Caleb Williams showing what he is, being successful. Not in a situation where you had with Justin Fields, you drafted your quarterback in the first round, and then you reversed the process of team building and went to tank after drafting a quarterback in the top 15. So that's also what I'm looking at with that situation. I think when you pass up on Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, hindsight's always going to be 20/20. But one thing I like to say and caution for when a lot of people look at it from that standpoint, CJ Stroud and or Bryce Young would not succeed. And I think even Bryce Young has struggled like we see in Carolina right now. They have some team building to do. But CJ Stroud, who's a Rookie of the Year candidate, wouldn't be CJ Stroud with the currently constructed team that the Chicago Bears have right now. I just don't think he would. So when I say all of that to say, the decision has gotten harder. I'm really at a crossroads on this thing. But as we get out of here, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Has your mind changed any, if at all, about the Justin Fields situation? Do you feel it's gotten harder? Because you could look at it from an analytical, strategical standpoint of team building, rookie quarterback, build the roster as good as you can. That's how some teams are winning Super Bowls. Or you could say, have the quarterback in Justin Fields, see his elevation. He becomes elite, or he becomes a very, very high-end starter, top 10 to 15 quarterback, and your roster is just loaded with all of the assets you brought in from trading out of the first overall pick in back-to-back years. Two things you can look at, two ways you can look at it. But that's going to do it for today's video. I just wanted to drop some knowledge. Some of the things I'm looking at is I feel this decision gets harder. I wanted to have an extended version of this conversation, really just talking me to you, knowing where your mind is at. Chicago Bears fans, NFL fans, what do you do in this situation? That's going to do it for today's show. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as always. And now we out.